It's 1 o'clock. I'm calling this meeting to order. Please join me in the national anthem. National anthem, my gosh, what am I talking about? Pledge of allegiance, I am not singing. Attention, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag. To the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. No. We don't have time. Mr. Steele, this is not funny. Mrs. Campisi, would you call the roll, please? Present?
Present. Present.
Present.
Present. Present. Present.
Notice that this agenda was posted properly on December 1st, 2023. And let's move on down. Approval of the minutes. Is there a motion for the minutes of the last meeting? Motion's been moved. We have a second. Thank you very much. Please vote electronically and call the roll. Mrs. Campisi. Abstain.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Moved to item 2, and we'll receive the report from CEO Brandy Garner and listen to her report. We may call others to assist. Mrs. Garner.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Have a bit of a long report today, and we're going to do a couple of different things. So let's get started. Today's report, we're going to cover just my operational updates. We're going to talk about our employees, our population. We're going to talk about the detainee overdoses that occurred last week. We'll be talking about our releasing processes and what we've done to change those and what we will be doing in the future. And then we'll talk about some of the holiday events that are happening for our staff and for the detainees in the facility. First, I want to express my deepest gratitude to the esteemed trustees of the board for their unwavering dedication, tireless efforts, and steadfast support of our detention center. Your commitment and advocacy has been instrumental in shaping the center's mission, ensuring its smooth operation and fostering a safer environment for all. Your time and expertise generously given have made a profound impact, and we're immensely grateful for your ongoing guidance and commitment to our shared goals. Thank you for your contributions. On Thursday, November 30th, 2023, our facility had a critical incident on the second floor in David Pod involving 3 Oklahoma County Detention Center detainees. At approximately 12:14, Housing Monitor Holloway called for a nurse and gurney for an inmate who was laying on the ground. The inmate appeared to be blue in color and appeared non-responsive. Once detention officers and medical personnel entered the pod, the shift commander initiated a call with emergency services. Shortly thereafter, another inmate fell to the ground and was followed by a 3rd inmate. Medical personnel and detention officers performed life-saving procedures on the inmates, including CPR and multiple doses of Narcan. All 3 inmates were sent out by IMSA to Southwest Medical Center. After receiving medical treatment and being cleared by medical personnel, all 3 inmates will return to the facility. The investigation is ongoing, and we are committed to rooting out the source of the contraband. We do have some leads that they're following up on, and I'm hopeful that eventually we will have charges to file on the individuals responsible for introducing that contraband into the facility. Some of the steps that we're taking, we're going to continue the random pat downs of all staff that are entering the facility, all vendors, pretty much anyone that's entering into the secure side of the facility will be doing those pat downs. Everybody's issued Narcan, they're trained on it, they carry it, and that will continue. And then we have some other security measures that are in place just to address the ongoing concerns with contraband. If I may present this to you all, I just want to try to drive the point home. The small amount that we are trying to detect when we're doing these pat downs, it's not something that is easily caught by the body scanner. It's not something that is easily caught by tactile pat downs. It is pure happenstance when we happen to come across it. You can see we did find some substance that we are looking into. We're going to send it out for OSBI for further testing, but it's very difficult to detect. And I just want to. Now, obviously, that's not fentanyl. It's salt. It's salt. I'm doing it for demonstration purposes because I don't think that anybody quite has a grasp of how little it takes to produce a deadly overdose. If that is a long-term user that has their hands on that, that is enough to kill them. If that is in the hands of someone that doesn't use, that's enough to kill 10 to 15 people. If that was not cut with anything and it was pure fentanyl, you're talking at least 30 people would die from that small amount of fentanyl. So when we're talking about the security measures that are in place, it's very difficult to detect. We remain vigilant. We go looking for it constantly, night and day, but it's hard to detect. I just wanted to show you all that just to drive the point home. That's what we're looking for when we're talking about fentanyl. With that, I do want to present some awards to some of the key staff that were involved in those incidents. The amount of coordination and effort that was seen and that we witnessed during that event was commendable. Because of their swift actions, 3 lives were saved, and that's remarkable. These officers are hereby honored for demonstrating exceptional courage, swift actions, and unwavering care for the detainee population. Their quick thinking and dedication to ensuring the safety and well-being of individuals within our facility led to the preservation of life in a critical situation. The selfless and decisive actions taken by the detention officers stand as a testament to their commitment to service and upholding the highest standards of professionalism. Their unwavering dedication to duty has set an inspiring example for all within our institution. Now, the number of people that were involved in this event, I could not have them all here today because somebody still has to run the jail, but we do have a couple of representatives here. I'm going to just go through the list of names, and as I go through that, if they can come and stand, I have someone that will be presenting them with certificates. Housing Monitor Karen Holloway, Corporal Brett Kelly, Corporal Omar Albany, Staff Sergeant Michael Alleman, Lieutenant Barrett Washington, Staff Sergeant Mozella Stewart, Corporal Christopher Buick, Lieutenant Gavin Fields, Lieutenant Zakiah Byers, Sergeant Brian Tilbury, Corporal Tracy Cummings, Captain Gina Cheris, Detention Officer Brandy Heinrich, Sergeant Terrence Murphy, Brenda Pierce, who works for Turnkey as an RN, Gabriel Stasili, an LPN for Turnkey, Rebecca Ecton, an EMT for Turnkey, and there are numerous other staff involved, including medical staff that we're still working to identify by reviewing video. Donna Hansen, I believe, is here, the Healthcare Services Administrator, and she will be accepting on Turnkey's behalf. Would we like to get a photo? I want to stand up there and get a photo real quick. It's okay, come on. Okay, perfect.
Sorry.
I know you guys are just a small representation of the number of people that were involved, and I know that many others are still working at the detention facility. I just want to thank you guys for your dedication, for your efforts, and the way that you handled that situation is commendable. So thank you.
I want to add to that, thank you very much. We never can say thank you enough for those of you who are, and those that you represent here this evening, for putting your lives on the line every day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's noticed. Whether everybody believes that or not, that is noticed. Thank you for your service very much on behalf of all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Next up, I'm going to talk about our late releases. That's something that has garnered quite a bit of attention lately. I did meet with the Chief Public Defender, Bob Ravitz, last week. We had an excellent meeting. It was geared towards looking for solutions to the problem of late releases, and I'm looking forward to working with him and his office on developing some of these solutions. I first want to start off by saying culture is a significant factor to the lack of prioritization of these releases. When I first got there, back in January of 2022, it was not uncommon for them to shut down releasing when they didn't have the staff to man it. It was one of the first areas that were shut down because it wasn't a priority to release it. And then on a personal note, I can tell you 15, 20 years ago, I've had some family members that were booked into the facility, and once they bonded out, the minimum time for release was 3 days. I had another one that was there for 7 days. So this is a long-standing cultural issue, and for whatever reason, it's just never been a priority. I'm concerned. I think that it's unacceptable to wait that long. In an ideal world, I think that people should be getting out within 4 hours. Even in a facility as large as ours, I think that there are some efficiencies to be made. The concern comes from, a lot of these people have jobs to go to, and if they're not getting released, when they get bonded out, sometimes it's because they have to be at work the next morning. If they're not getting released on time and they lose their job, that starts a downward spiral for them. It starts a downward spiral for their families because now they don't have the money to pay their fines and costs, and they're looking for gainful employment, and it can drive people, down that path. And then the other side of that is it goes against the very fiber of our mission, vision, and values to positively impact the lives of others. So in recognition of this longstanding practice and the challenge in converting the fixed mindset of some of the leadership that was down there, we have made changes in the leadership down there in the inmate processing unit. I'm hoping that this will shift the culture. They understand that there is a need to get them out very quickly. When the latest academy that's going through the officer on-the-job training, we're going to staff them. We're going to try to stack our receiving and releasing with some of those staff members. We talked about the supervision, cross-training. In one-on-one meetings that I've had with them, that has been an issue that has been identified time and time again. You have people that only know one function, and they don't know how to perform other functions in that area. So we're going to be focused on cross-training. Every person that works down there should know how to perform every task involved in not only the booking procedures, but also releasing. And then we're going to look at what is our process. We're finding a lot of redundancies in the way that we do things, and because we have the network project that is going on and Jail Tracker Mobile, I think that we have identified a couple of ways to improve the efficiencies. And we're going to talk about the digitization. I did meet with some of the court staff last week and talked about the need to use digital processes, even a SharePoint, to relay paperwork back and forth so we get it in a timely manner. A lot of times what we're waiting for is the physical paper to make it to the courthouse, and so, or make it to the detention center to take whatever action is needed. And that can be hours after the detainee has already made it back to the jail from the courthouse. So by digitizing this, we can speed things up. If we get it while they're still here in the courthouse, we can at least start staging and prioritizing their release. We are improving our communication, as I already mentioned, with the Public Defender's Office, and he's going to provide us a list of people that we anticipate will likely get released, so we can start doing some of the preliminary legwork of getting them released. And then lastly, what we're going to do for the month of December is we're going to start collecting metrics on the time for release. So I have a baseline to start from. And then starting January 1st, once we get those metrics, we'll set a goal that's measurable, that's achievable, and we'll set a goal. And for that first quarter, if everybody works together, not just, it shouldn't just fall on our releasing staff. It needs to fall on the entire facility, because the releasing staff is waiting for the detention officers to bring the person downstairs. Sometimes that gets lost in, the other things that they're responsible for. So it's going to involve teamwork. But if they can achieve the goal that we set, we'll give them a $500 bonus. So those are the things that we're doing to address the issues related to the late releases. And I'm hoping that we can change that culture of lack of prioritization of it.
And we have the money for that.
We do. And the reason we have the money for that is because staff is working together to reduce costs on things like styrofoam trays.
Excellent.
Our employee update, we're up to 270 current employees. Our academy did start this morning. There's some general demographics about our staff. We're still mostly female, which is kind of interesting if you think about it.
Can I ask a question on that real quick?
Sure.
How many are entering academy?
We have 13 cadets that began today. Okay. Not quite what we wanted, but we were in a little bit of a transition with trying to work out our process from beginning to end, what that looks like, because we have a new person in the recruiting position.
And the last academy was 19 or 20. Is that correct?
We had 20 that ultimately graduated.
Understand. Thank you.
Yeah. We did have 13 cadets that began today, and then of our current staff, we have 11 of them that are requesting to go through the academy so they can become the detention support officer positions. There's some more information. It's kind of on there for the last couple of meetings, but ultimately they're going to get about 10 weeks of training, which is far more than the standard required. So we're really proud of that. We have a great team now working in the training division. They're putting together new curriculum and they're staying on top of trends, and it's an exciting time, really. You asked about our previous academy. There's the number. We had 13 detention officers and 7 DSOs report. They're currently in JTO, and again, once they get out of the JTO process, they'll be many of them will be going to receiving, just to help with the efficiency of the overall area. The charging statistics, the top 10 charges of the current population. Now keep in mind, this is disaggregated. So if you see somebody there that's for possession of controlled substance, they likely have other charges that are maybe stacked with that, or the possession of paraphernalia, same thing. You're gonna see those with other charges typically. They're not being held just simply on that charge. And then you can see the number of felonies we're holding versus the number of misdemeanors. Our population is trending downward. We've booked in an average of about 48 for the month of November. Our average population for November was 1438, and the average length of stay was just over 6 days. And if you notice the chart, it's still trending downward even on the weekends, which is impressive because typically jails will see a spike in their population over the weekends. This is something that I find really exciting. This is comparing us to Tulsa County Jail. We are no longer the largest jail in the state. If you look at per capita, Oklahoma County has 166 per 100,000 residents that are currently in our facility. Tulsa County has 212 per 100,000 residents. Their population is 1419 and ours is 1325. And I need to really mention that over the weekend, we dipped down below 1300, and that is the lowest it has been since 1996. So there's a lot of people that deserve credit for that. It's not just us. I mean, we are trying to be proactive in the management of our population, but we have the courts, the judges, the district attorney, the public defender's office, all of the diversion programs, bondsmen, all of these people are working together to ensure that the people that are in our facility are the ones that are the most dangerous, and they're giving opportunities to people who have lesser crimes, who have an opportunity at rehabilitation. It's astounding to see all the teamwork that the county is doing to lower that population. This is just showing the population trend since 2020 of July. It continues to trend downward. Over the past 3 years, the average days detained, including your long stay people, is going to be about 128. The number of people that are held pre-trial right now is 1,182. And then there's some demographics just on what is that, not demographics, but there's some stats on how long each category of people have been held. As I mentioned before, our population is 1,325. This time last year, it was 1,601. The number of bookings by agency, Oklahoma City continues to be the largest, taking up about 62%. Next up would be the sheriff's office, and then some of the other outlying agencies, all combined, takes up about 10%. We do have 33 veterans in custody, 51 homeless. That number for the DOC sentence is actually incorrect. It is around 120 the last time I checked. And we have 143 people in our population that are over 50, which is considered geriatric by correctional standards. The pod renovations are ongoing. We have the 8th floor. It continues to remain shut down. We're doing maintenance projects, and we are doing the painting and sealing of the floors and the walls. We did contract with Express Personnel to help expedite that, so hopefully we can get an entire floor done in a month. The first pod that we did was for Charlie, as you remember, and it was kind of just a test pod to see how long it was going to take. But now that we know how long it's going to take, that we decided to go with the contractors to help with that. On the 8th floor, we do have one pod complete, and one pod is almost complete, and then the other 2 pods on the 8th floor are still being worked on by maintenance to make sure that they're fully operational before we move people up there. We have a lot of events going on this month. First, we have 40 Days of Joy. The judiciary, philanthropic, and business community donated gifts for a daily raffle from November 23rd to January 1st for our staff. And this is for anybody that shows up to work that day. They're entered into the raffle and they have a chance to receive whatever gift it is. There are gift baskets with, they're really big, huge gift baskets. There's gift cards, there's Thunder tickets, there's a lot of items there. And I'm just so appreciative to the outpouring of the community in supporting our staff. It means a lot to them. Every day we're doing a drawing at noon. I'm going live on our teams, and then we're posting it to a SharePoint, which is kind of a new thing for us, working on trying to increase the communication amongst our facility. And they really seem to enjoy that quite a bit. We are going to do an angel tree for the employees, and this will be for people that have children that are 12 and under in their care that may have some financial hardships. And so we're going to have that posted at the employee entrance so we can help them out and make sure that their children get a good Christmas. And then we do have gifts for staff members. The Arnall Family Foundation is giving our staff members $150 cash gifts as a gesture of gratitude for the holiday season. And I just want to thank you for your generosity. It means a lot to them.
I think Misty's going to bring it up to you so that you can give to the staff whenever you think it's appropriate.
Okay, thank you. On Saturday, there was an amazing event. There were 54 volunteers in the community and about 16 staff members. It was a group of community members that were organized by team, and they distributed small gifts to every detainee in the facility. And it was made possible through donations from Mock Resources and multiple other private donors. It was a very moving event. It really showed the humanity and the compassion that needs to be in that facility all the time. And the detainees were very appreciative of it. Just a small token of something letting them know they're not forgotten. It's really hard on them during the holidays to be away from their family members, and it's important to take care of them. It's hard on their mental health, and we're so grateful that we had so many people involved in that project. Out in our front public lobby, we have 2 big Christmas trees. One of those Christmas trees is going to be for the detainees. The care unit, our new care unit, is the one that is kind of spearheading this effort. We have ornaments that she's going to supervise and have the detainees decorate and write messages to their family or to their children on it. And we're going to display that in our public lobby and let them come up and get those the week of Christmas, just as a way to show that, we're still trying to look out after the detainees and, of course, their family members. And that does conclude my presentation for this month. I'm happy to answer any questions or address any
Any
concerns.
questions or suggestions, comments? Trustees?
Misty was bringing up a box for you to take back to the detention center, and she'll
Okay.
bring it to you now.
Mr. Chairman.
It's not really the box that's the gift, but
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Amazon boxes are
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arnold.
I
We
appreciate
appreciate it. And Mr. Steele, thank you much for organizing December 2nd's activities. Much appreciated. Commissioner?
Just real quick, Brandy, on the release stuff.
Mhm.
Is there a way that we can communicate with the courts on adjudication day to where we can have these individuals, similar to the way DOC does it? They sign a piece of paper. They do not have to come back to the jail once they're adjudicated. They walk out free. Now they're dressed in whatever clothes that they came in with or whatever they're sitting in court with. And then they can agree to come back. And if they don't come back and pick it up, then we'll mail it to them.
I think
It's-
that would be appropriate for certain situations, but it's something that we can definitely explore, especially when we know that somebody has been released and found not guilty, as we've seen in recent history. I think that's certainly an option, and I think it should be done. Yeah.
And secondarily, you're doing tremendous work. The communication is adding to the cooperation of your staff and the cooperation of inmates and the morale of the inmate, or the morale of not only the inmates, but of your staff. It's showing what can be done in this type of environment. And it's not an easy environment. The law enforcement, the sheriff's office is working with you guys great. Wish I could say that about all, but I really appreciate, Sheriff, you helping, us reach this spot that we're in currently. You guys have done great work together.
Thank you.
Mr. Buck?
Director, I want to applaud your move towards management metrics that we as a trust can use, and I think that's a good public tool for us to understand how we're performing in certain areas. I noted that in your presentation on the individuals who were in our custody far too long, and I look forward to revisiting that. I have a question about the population that we currently have in our care that are in competency restoration treatment or awaiting transport to Bonita who have been found incompetent? Are there any data points you can share?
There are. I don't have those data points with me, but I do know we have quite a few that are still waiting, and we have people that have been waiting for months, if not, I think we have a couple that have been waiting over a year.
When we care for people who are under the responsibility of the Department of Corrections, there's a reimbursement related to that. Is there any such reimbursement in the competency space?
No, sir, there is not.
Any other comments? Mrs. Garner, I appreciate your leadership. I appreciate your leadership team because you're trying to change a culture inside of a facility that's very, very difficult to do overnight, especially. And it requires leadership. It doesn't happen by accident. And I appreciate you working so closely with your staff, who in turn work closely with our detainees to help them wherever they can. Occasionally, you're going to have a knucklehead or two. It's just a part of society.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter whether you're incarcerated or not, there's some knuckleheads around. But please pass along to your leadership team our profound thanks very much.
I will, and thank you,
Yeah.
each of you, for your guidance.
We're going to move to the public comment session next. So first person up is Judge Strong.
First of all, I want to express my sincere gratitude to Chairman Oval and Vice Chairman Bucks, Ms. Arnell, Mr. Alexander, Pastor Scobie, and Mr. Johnson for your service to the trust. And I want to commend Ms. Garner on what I saw on Saturday. It was an amazing transformation. I have been at the jails in and out for almost 20 years, not as an inmate to let people out, but it was clean and the pots, there was no triple selling people. I saw double, but I saw a lot of single, and it smells nice. It wasn't like no urine smell. And I was able to even literally walk into the cell and hand the bag to the inmates. And I saw one of the officer, the first time I went into the cell, I was a little bit hesitant because I didn't know how far I could go in. So I left the bag on the bottom, and the inmate was sleeping on the top, and he just woke up, and I left it on the bottom, and the officer picked it up and handed it to him. So I saw that respect, and I was like, wow, even I didn't even do that. So from that point on, I make myself, went inside, handed with both of them my hand, and wished them a Merry Christmas. So that's the respect that I saw, and I saw smiles on their face. So it was amazing. The TV in the pots are working, the microwave are in there. So you guys have done a tremendous job. So I just want to say thank you. I mean, it really made my heart like feel really good, because I go home from before thinking, oh my God, I left these people in there. Could I have done more to help them, you know? So with that, I was very appreciative and appreciate your staff to do that too, because they came in at 8 o'clock in the morning to help us do that, because we couldn't have done it without them. Thirdly, I want to say something. I know that a lot of people probably want to say it and probably don't have the courage to say it, but I want to make it, I want to say something. Each of you who are on the trust, you are a leader and you have a voice in our community. And I urge that you use that voice to talk to your elected officials, to talk to people that you know. They should put the jail as number one in their priority. If the elected official is not putting the jail as their number one on their priority, they fail our citizens, because those people who are in and out of the jail every day need our help. I mean, if they walk into that jail and they are normal, with what the conditions we have over there, they're gonna walk out, have mental issues. Or that if they're dangerous and they go in, they're gonna come out more dangerous. And they're not gonna be neighbors to our elected official who are living in gated community. They're gonna be living next to somebody, one of our citizens. So we need to do more. Okay, is my time up? Oh, okay. But I really urge that you guys all use your voice and talk to your elected official. I believe in your leadership, and then I believe that you guys together, the six of you, can really make a difference. Thank you.
I just put myself in a precarious position asking a judge to please sit down. You all are witnesses. I may need a witness. Next is Mr. Washington, please, for his 3 minutes.
Well, now, Mr. Gardner, I am deeply moved by slight variations that are being made in the house of horror that I dub it, so no one can steal it because it belongs to me. Now then, I'm told by this presentation, I listened very carefully, by the way, that the population has been trending downward. I don't know if that's a fact or not, but I don't see any reason why she has to lie. But I say I have to commend you for that much. But let me say, oh, by the way, the jury's out regarding the confinement of those men and women currently in jail in the house of horror. Let me say, quiet children, let me say that I do not believe that we are handling the situation with respect to the bringing in of drugs into the facility. No. You heard Miss Gardner speak so gallantly, so openly, so directly about 3 inmates. Luckily, you had caring, again, thank you people for them being there, caring for them to make sure that they're getting proper medical treatment. But that in and of itself does not have the cause at all. Let's not randomly, let me listen to me carefully. Let's not randomly shake down staff. Let's make them go through the same procedures and methods that you do any other detainee when they walk through the metal detector. It's not person against them, but there's a larger, bigger monster that looms. See how that works? That would even be included for me. If I were an employee, I would need to walk straight. Wouldn't have a problem. Why? Because then I couldn't see it's discriminatory practice. This is very serious, y'all. Now, I just came out of the city council meeting this morning. Commission meeting, excuse me. They're talking about a new place for the jail. Are we really in need of a new jail? Question mark. I said we don't. You're fixing up 8th floor, 4th floors. That's millions of dollars. Which is important. What are we saying? How long is it going to take for the new jail to be presented? Don't know, do we? Oh, but let me say, everyone in the town, my boy, it's over with. Oh, it is so electrifying when I get up here, isn't it? Because I command them attention. Mr. Arbon, thank you all very
Time's up.
much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Washington.
Blink.
Mr. Eddie is next.
Tough act to follow.
Sorry, it just worked out that way.
Appreciate it. Sure you got that in mind. I want to echo what Judge Truong's comments today. It's a great move in the right direction. I was just checking the numbers, and we haven't seen a jail death since September, and that needs to be acknowledged and knocked on wood for the superstition of us, considering we're in the fentanyl epidemic. I spent the morning, Pastor Scobie at the pastor's meeting, 9 o'clock at the Board of County Commissioners meeting on the jail site, and this situation continues to be dire. concerning the sustainability of improved conditions and the political ecosystem that we're operating in. And I think it does require exactly the kind of advocacy and leadership from the trust members that Judge Trong spoke of. And I know that some of you are engaging at that level, and I'm not sure about others. Of course, I'm not privileged to every conversation that you may have. But there is a space for advocacy that is exclusive to the interests of the jail and the human beings caught in there. And we have to keep our eyes on the prize because there is such large political and socio-political powers at force right now with the arena and the revenue, with the operating needs that the jail has, with the location being up in the air and undecided. The Northeast community, I'd be remiss if I did not remark, would be absolutely up in arms at the prospect of a Northeast Side jail location, and I would hope that you all would advocate on their behalf for that. But we have to secure a facility. I am still not sold that the best interests of this city, of the criminal justice system, of the community, and of the detainees paramountly is not in a demolish and rebuild. But I understand that the city's money, wealth, elite, and capital has opposed that for economic interest, which is frustrating. Therefore, it's your role as the caretakers of our city's most vulnerable to advocate and wade into this battle. And not all of you are constrained by the same political constraints that some of you who are elected are. And it is imperative that you are engaged in these discussions as this cake gets cut and the plans get made, because this is approaching a 40-year debacle of depravity that really I think we all should own, that we have failed as a city and a community to take care of our most vulnerable people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eddy. Mr. Johnston, excuse me, I keep making that mistake.
Good afternoon, everybody. Excuse my voice. I did want to say that, we're hearing finally that we're starting to search staff now, which is good. Continue to search them, have them run through the scanners, because that only just helps the cause, right? Things like putting in the metal detector. I know there's some folks that says we don't need to do that, but, in the lobby, but making sure that we've got policies and procedures in place that are continuing to search and make sure that there's nothing being brought in. Because one of the things we know is that it's coming from the courthouse. And there's inconsistent searching of folks coming from the courthouse, right? So searching everybody gives you a higher chance of finding it, Let's see here. I still echo there's a potential to bring in reserve deputies until we get more people trained. You bring in 30 people, you train 10 of them go, kind of thing, to kind of cover down on the personnel issue, because that's still one of the gigs that we keep getting marked on, and it's an easy thing if you all can coordinate with that. Hygiene products, we're still, folks are getting out of that facility, still not getting showers and everything like that. We pump a lot of money into that facility. We can give them a bar of soap. I know I showed it at the BOCC meeting last week. Mr. Davidson was there. It was just some folks that came out with feces in their hair, period blood all over them. And it's we shouldn't be doing that. They're human beings, for Pete's sake. Did want to say, when can we get the Department of Correction folks out? What's the plan on that and everything? That's a huge strain. That's 171 folks. That would get us down to that 1,200 mark. That would only help. Let's see here. I'm glad that we're getting in a trained, licensed contractors to do the renovations, to speed it up. And, nothing beats people who are credentialed. And then, of course, if we continue to do common sense things like searching everybody, that includes leadership on down. You lead from the front. You just make sure, and you set that example, that everybody's going to be searched, turnkey health, et cetera, et cetera. we should be able to kind of put a button in all of that stuff. And it would only help your guys' case of trying to get a new jail. The reason why that there's a spot for the new jail, there's a lot of resistance because of the past, right? It's hard to ignore that. And then I want to say that as a resident on South Park Estates on the northeast side, I'm going to fight like hell to try to keep that jail out of my neighborhood. I'm tired of my neighborhood being shit on and pissed on by the folks. So I'm going to fight like hell. Thank you.
Ms. Seibert is up next.
Hello, I would like to first thank the board for allowing me to have this time to speak. I would like to make several points clear that I would like to bring the attention to the board. First being, I want to reiterate the sanitary issues that happen in the jail. And even though people, you know, they're offenders, they get locked up, they're in the county jail for a reason, they are still privy to their Eighth Amendment right against cruel and unusual punishment impeded upon them by the government. And the main sanitary issue as a woman that I'd like to focus on in this situation is not having menstruation products. And I know that the last meeting I also brought this up. However, I was the director's assistant at Hope for the Future for 3 years. And I am used to making connections, procuring donations, figuring out how to connect points so that people can have the things that they need. And I would love to volunteer my time to be able to contact sanitary product companies to be able to get these products for women in jail. So that's one thing. But another thing, I would also like to agree with Mr. Johnston and Mr. Eddy about the jail not needing to be on the east side of town. It's already a food desert. There's already a higher rate of crime on the east side of town. There's already more disadvantaged families and children in that part of town. And something that I have learned in my criminal justice education is that when there's no placement for children, and I know that the counties try to do a lot better about this. However, when there's no placement for children, they're ending up in juvie. And I also understand that the jail trust does not oversee the juvenile justice department anymore. However, that's a huge issue. Like, there could be more funds allocated towards programs that could help these disadvantaged families. And I also understand that that would mean rewriting Oklahoma legislation to the point where families are not separated because they're exposed to domestic violence and violence that parents who want to do right for their children can't even report because they're threatened with separation. And then again, that just ups the recidivism rates for incarceration. So that's what I have to say, and I appreciate you for your time. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Sherman. He has items 3 through 5. Start off with your report, Mr. Sherman. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So we'll go ahead and, I know that's a little difficult for everybody to see. In fact, it's very difficult for me to see. So as you can see, for the previous month, the total revenue was $3,489,961. Our total expenses were $3,057,000, $3,057,307, which gave us a net income at the end of the month of $432,654. Currently, as of today, after payroll for last month, current cash on hand is $2.4 million. On the revenue side, we got Oklahoma Department of Corrections revenue was $177,000 for September. Telephone revenue was $100,694, but that was below our expected budget by $29,306. Our commissary revenue was $48,599. Again, that was below budget by about $11,401. Our
municipalities contracts boarding revenue was $168. And of course, we were still, do not have a contract currently with the city of Oklahoma City. Miscellaneous fees were $120,264, which $120,000 of that came from the NCIC for a telecommunications grant money. Our expenses were fairly stable from the month before. Our detainee on-site medical care is always up at $666,226. Our off-site medical care was $54,087 and was below budget by $13,913. Utilities were roughly the same from the previous month. We did have subscriptions for $21,988, which is above budget, but that was for maintenance and ticketing system, and the HVAC control system annual subscription, which was $7,849. Professional services and legal fees were $19,052, and safety equipment, we replaced the fingerprinting machine for background checks. So the summary for the month of October, jail operations produced a net profit of $432,654, which of course is mostly due to payroll savings.
Questions for Mr. Sherman? Yes,
Just
sir.
real quick, Mr. Sherman. I know we don't have a contract with the city of Oklahoma City, but it seems to me that they're booking 60+% of the people that are inside are.
It's about 65%.
Okay. And then of our expenses, would it be safe to say that 65% of the $3 million that we're spending a month should be possibly covered by them?
That would be a fair assumption.
So that's,
yes.
I mean, we're getting $168 versus what could be nearly $2 million. You know what was the contract in the past, just out of curiosity?
The last contract with the city was $500,000, $500,000.
Was that?
And we received that, I think, before I got, it was at the very end of the last fiscal year, like the last day, they gave us $500,000.
Was the incarceration rate different? It wasn't different.
Not that I'm aware of at that time, no.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you.
It will be more next time.
The Tulsa County Jail stopped taking the municipal for Tulsa, and so Tulsa Police Department now has their own municipal jail, and I think their cost is in the $4 million range per year, and that doesn't count depreciation on the building they had to build or any of those costs, but just operationally.
Any other questions for Mr. Sherman? If not, we'll move to the approval item 4 of invoices and claims. Anything you want to say before we take a vote on that, Mr. Sherman?
No, the only thing I would add, and as I talked to Chairman Allball before the meeting, and we will start to separate those out for you guys, all those invoices where if it's maintenance, we'll have a maintenance. We'll get that separated. I know it's very difficult to read.
Thank you.
We'll change that structure for you.
Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Buck? Oh, excuse me.
Chairman Allball.
Reverend?
May I ask a question?
Sure.
On the telephone revenue and the commissary revenue, is it lower because we have fewer detainees?
Not necessarily. Part of the reason it's lower is when we went to NCIC, we've had some. I wasn't part of the original NCIC conversation, so.
So a lot of it is because, number one, we do have a lower population. We were still in the transition phases of trying to phase in the new company, and they have a lower rate passed on to the detainees and their families for communication. So that'll probably account for a lot of it. And then just making sure everything's operating the way it should. And I expect that number will probably increase a little bit, especially over the next couple of months.
Okay. I just thought it was good news that it was lower because of the fact we have fewer detainees, because that would obviously be a reason that would increase if you had 1,450 or so So anyway, I just thought that's good news to me.
Well, and keep in mind, the rate that they're paying is significantly lower than what it was before. It's some of the lowest in the state, I think. Well, I know for in the state, but possibly the nation. There are others that do it for free, so.
Any other questions for Mr. Sherman right at the moment? I need to back up and accept a motion and a second for receiving Mr. Sherman's report.
Motion.
We will vote on receiving the report from Mr. Sherman. Please vote electronically, and Mrs. Campisi, call the roll, please. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, and now I'll entertain a motion to accept the invoices and payroll and income statements from Mr. Sherman.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Have a second? Second. Have a motion and a second. Vote electronically, please, and Mrs. Campisi. Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Thank you very much. Discussion and possible action on a contract with Heritage Health Solutions for outside medical claim. Mr. Sherman.
Yes, so in our contract with Turnkey Medical, we currently have a $1.45 million cap for offsite medical. What seems to be happening is that anytime we send somebody offsite, unless they were in an altercation within the facility, it's billed back as a pre-existing condition. So we're not, that's money that we should be coming back to us through Turnkey that is currently not coming back to us. I had spoken with CEO Garner, and she had seen a presentation from this group, and so I had them come in, and essentially the way that they work is we don't pay them unless they save us money. The initial assessment that they did was that they could save us anywhere from $70,000 to $80,000 a month in offsite medical, which is money that would come back to the trust. So that's where this came from. Now, I have engaged with several other correctional healthcare companies, and I'm working on getting quotes and some more information from those to present to the trust as we move forward. I think that a lot of our contracts that we have are ones that we need to scrutinize and make sure we're getting the biggest bang for our dollar, which I don't feel like we are in some of these. So that's what Heritage Health Solutions does is anything that goes off site, they will handle it. They will pay they bill it as 110% of Medicare. And then anything that they only get paid on what they save us money for.
What's that rate?
About 10%.
So we could potentially just pay them 100,000 to save $1 million? Seems like a pretty good return of investment.
Any questions?
I do.
Yes.
So with
Mr.
this,
Alexander.
are we talking about replacing Turnkey or in addition to Turnkey?
This would be in addition to the current Turnkey
Thank you for
contract.
clarification.
Sorry. Yes, sir. Yeah, we still have the current contract. We're not getting rid of that. This is just a supplemental for our offsite medical.
I made that same mistake and assumption too. So, whoa, wait a minute. So, any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion in a second. Motion has been had. Second. Still need a second.
Second.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Campisi, call the roll and everyone vote electronically. Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Appreciate it. Motion passes. Item 6, I'm sorry. It's the MOU with the Board of County Commissioners and the Sheriff's Department to provide transportation, continue to provide transportation services for us. I know we've talked about this many, many times. I know there are differing opinions also, but I also know that our current staffing level is not equipped nor trained to pick up the transportation services at the court, to and from the courthouse. And I really don't want to leave the sheriff's department high and dry halfway through the fiscal year. This is something we can buy a little time with, in my opinion, to work something out with the budget board and the county commissioners to make this a little bit easier in the next budget year. So I'd like to move on this, but at the same time, I'd like to hear everyone else's opinions, and we need to have a discussion about it. Are there any questions specifically about the MOU? I believe there is an agreement on this existing MOU, and it has been approved by our attorneys. So any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
I
Alexander?
agree. We're halfway through the fiscal year. This is what we already been operating under. And at the same point, and I come from the private sector background, but you can have different budgets as for different different divisions within your corporation, but the money's all coming from the same place, the corporation. And we are all funded by the county, totally, the sheriff and the jail. I think as the trust, this is where we need leadership from the county budget board to give us some guidance, because really it's just moving money around from the same course of money. They could take the money out of our budget, put it back in the sheriff's budget for the transportation. It seems to be a little bit things we're getting caught up between two different entities that are funded from the same basic source. It's almost like having two divisions of a corporation argue against the budget together when it was set by a board of directors. We need leadership from the board of directors. In this case, that would be the budget board for the county, because that is the same place both agencies get, our trust and the sheriff's department get their money. And we don't have authority over what they decide. We need guidance for them. We're halfway through the fiscal year. I believe we should continue doing and operating the way we were operating. And we have time to sit down, different members of the trust, with the budget board and say, we need you to tell us what you want, because you are the budget board. Thank you.
Understood. Anyone else?
We actually have just received informal opinion from the AG's office. It was at the request of our Vicki Behenna DA. I had requested one also, but this one came directly to DA Behenna, and in it, they had a little bit of a quandary because of the Constitution, legislation, and then our indenture, which specifically accepts the trust from responsibility for transportation. Coming down, agreeing that the funds are all from the county, but liability rests in different departments. And we could go ahead and be a conduit for the transportation funds from the county to go to the jail trust, to go to the sheriff. But at that point, we are taking on responsibility for transportation, which we're specifically accepted from taking. That's the problem. And the AG said that there was an issue in trying to keep from invalidating the trust. And if we were to just throw out that exception, we would be invalidating the trust. So I would recommend that we go ahead and sign MOU with the sheriff in terms of preparing the detainees to go to the courthouse and back, but that the county commissioners also sign an MOU with the sheriff where they agree on the compensation so that it does not go through the jail trust. And once we're taking the compensation and giving it to the sheriff, we're putting the jail trust indenture in jeopardy, and we're also taking on liability between the jail and the courthouse that we should not be taking on as trustees, with a specific responsibility to do the best we can for the jail. We should not take on more liability than we have to. And so my recommendation is that we go ahead and sign MOU with the sheriff without a compensation in it, just in terms of how we prepare the detainees to hand off and back, like any other MOU with any nonprofit work with the jail. And then it's up to the county commissioners, of course, on whether they sign an MOU with the sheriff or not. But I would recommend that we go ahead and offer back the funds that are in our budget for transportation and offer it back to the county.
I appreciate that. I just believe it is very awkward to do that in the middle of a fiscal year, which is why I suggest we move forward with the current MOU. We've had the MOU since the creation of the trust, and you've been a part of that. I know that you've changed positions, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's nothing to hold the sheriff to providing the services without compensation. Nothing will.
I
And
never
we're
saw
not
the
equipped to do that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I never saw the MOU until you became our chairman, and I appreciate the transparency that you've allowed us as a trust to be able to look at the budget. But I don't believe that I ever changed positions. I just was ignorant. And I think the rest of the trust was also ignorant on that, except for possibly the sheriff at the time. But he wasn't the sheriff at the time that the trust was created, so he wasn't a part of that. It's just something that he inherited and has continued because he needed the funds for providing these services.
Question.
Any other
Question.
comments? Question is called.
Curious to when the Attorney General report was issued.
I
Don't know about the rest of the trust, but I've never seen this.
I just received that yesterday, and I had requested it quite a while ago, and I just received it from the assistant AG who sent it, but it had already been sent to our district attorney who had made a formal request. I had made an informal request, which as a citizen of Oklahoma, I had the authority to do.
Sure. I just don't have time right here to process an Attorney General's opinion I've never seen before. Thank you.
It's a little difficult. I'm still.
Any other comments or questions? I'd entertain a motion.
Motion. Motion to accept.
Oh, thank you. Motion and a second. Please vote electronically. Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. We'll move forward from here. Item 6, discussion and possible action, memorandum of understanding with the county commissioners. That's wrong. That's number 7. I apologize. MOU between the county commissioners for ARPA funds. Mr. Trumbo, I believe you're representing the county as county engineer. Sounds like an appropriate role.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is an MOU between the trust and the Board of County Commissioners for some specific projects at the jail that the county commissioners would undertake with ARPA funds as the recipient of those monies. So we don't have to change your agreement in the rent or the rental agreements you have. We're going to do it through an MOU. So we'll undertake these projects.
Most of them are related to the HVAC system. Is that correct?
Yeah, the biggest project's the HVAC system with some fire alarm work and so forth. And then there's some roof, the upper roof will be repaired. And then there's some work on the back docks with the garage doors.
The garage doors. What about the compactor, the cardboard compactor we have back there?
That was not in the list.
Not a part of this one. Okay.
Right.
All right. Any questions for Engineer Trumbo? All right. Entertain a motion. Motion to approve. Do I have a second? Thank you very much. Mrs. Campisi, call the roll. Vote electronically. Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you very much. Move to item 8, discussion of the MGT consulting report regarding the incarceration cost on a daily basis. for our detention center. Mr. Sherman?
Yes, sir. Has everybody on the trust had an opportunity to look through the MGT report?
I have.
So the findings of the report, and I'll just go through them quickly, since you all are very aware of what it looks like. So our current, as of now, after the MGT audit, and they went through and looked at everything, the initial first day cost of incarceration is $211.82. And then subsequent days after that are $61.74 per day. And that is based on 1,448 inmates. Do any of the members have any questions about the study or its scope?
What are the options here that are presented in this motion? There are two options. Can you explain that? Option one is charge $211.82 for the first day of incarceration, a lower rate than on a daily rate is $61.74. Option two is up to $66.49 for all daily incarceration without the.
So they separated in what they did. They separated. They gave us the regular, just the average daily rate, which is the $66.49. But then if we do it based upon option A, which would be the first day's cost, and then $61.74 per day after that.
I understand that. So what is the recommendation on the option, or options, I should say?
Mr. Chairman, from the way that I understand it, is that the average stay is 6 days. Is that correct?
On
The average stay is about 6 days. So that 6 day, clearly our first day is where we get hit the hardest. So
correct.
I mean, if it were
it's
up
the largest
to me,
amount.
I would say that we need to adopt. We probably might be, pardon the pun, miles ahead here with option A and getting the 211 up front. But that's my opinion, and that's the way I understand the entire issue here being presented to us in the front.
If I may, I think
Mrs. Garner.
the way that this is worded is a little bit confusing. So we're looking at two
Agreed.
different areas here. Option A would be used to negotiate our contracts with other agencies when we're looking at housing, okay? Option two is going to be what we are going to present to the district judge back in the spring, next spring, to get approval for the cost of incarceration. We have to do that every year, and we just took it upon ourselves to do it early so we could get it all in one fell swoop. So I don't know that you all have the option as much as this is informing these are two different options available through this report, if that makes any sense. Probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but we need both numbers approved is kind of where I'm going. Option one, we need approved to go forward with our cost of incarceration. However, with the court cost, that the courts charge when we have to have the judge approve the cost of incarceration, I think it would be better off to do the $66.49 a day versus trying to charge a detainee who's getting out of jail the $211 for the first day plus $61.74.
I'm just concerned about putting the two options in front of a judge and not having a clear-cut position.
Option two would be the one that would be put before
That's the
judge.
recommendation, okay.
Yeah, but I need
And
option
actually,
one.
you're talking about option one as a negotiating mechanism.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Why is it a part of the motion then?
I'm not really sure. I don't know.
Will you strike it?
Yeah, let's work on the wording on that. Reworded it.
If you were to,
I do think we ought to reword this and bring it back to the trust, because I am uncomfortable with the way this is reading, and we have enough confusion with other items already across the board for all of us.
I have a question on this.
Yes,
also.
ma'am.
I believe you've also asked MGT for the cost of release the day that a person's released. And so that would be pending to get that information as well, wouldn't it?
I don't know. Did we ever?
If it is out.
I will follow up I know we asked for that, but I have not seen anything from MGT yet on that. So I will follow up with them and then report back to you to let you know where we are in the process.
Okay, thank you.
That's
I
what
think
would-
also that the higher cost of 6649 would be one that would be more applicable to charge to DOC, since they really weren't instrumental in the actual first day of incarceration, and they would be getting somebody on the tail end of their detention there
That's
at the
correct.
center.
That's
And
correct.
so it's necessary to have all of these.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. I think that's what we need to clarify with our language on our agenda. So, I mean, to that, I think it'd be very easy for us to say that for our municipal contracts going forward, we will be negotiating the 21182 and the 6174. But for our statutory requirement to present to the judge for a average overall cost, we will be presenting the 6649. I think that's,
And also for
Where-
DOC.
yeah, that's where our language needs to be, instead of making it look like we're choosing one or the other.
Well, yeah.
I
That's-
agree.
we need to eliminate that confusion. And this needs to be cleaned up and brought back to us, quite frankly.
Okay.
So I would propose just to strike this from the agenda today, if that's possible. Is that allowed? Well, just, I need a motion to
Motion to
remove
strike.
this. Motion to strike.
Second.
Thank you very much. Gets us out of a Wewoka switch. Mrs. Campisi, call the roll, please. Yes.
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 I apologize for my slowness on that issue, but that's just too confusing to anybody and everybody as far as I'm concerned. Number 9, Mrs. Garner. Discussion and action on the possible donation of surplus portable bed platforms.
So we've been at a number of events, conferences, and different trainings with various sheriff's offices across the state. And Muskogee County, they have approached us and asked us if we would be able to donate any of the temporary housing, or the boats, as they're frequently called, to them, because there is a need. We have no use for them at this point. Those were used back when the population soared over 2,000. I do not anticipate that ever being the case again. And they're just sitting there, not being used for anything.
How many beds are you talking about?
We would start with 100 just to see if that would get them through, or up to 100, and just see exactly how many. They didn't really request a specific number. I just wanted to make sure that y'all were aware before I just handed them over to that agency.
Any questions? Mr. Buck?
Commissioner Davidson, do we have any surplus obligations on this, or is this permissible?
It's a great question. The way I understand it, and Rod, interject when I'm wrong here, which is probably now. But these types of items were transferred ownership to the trust. I would need to know what the original cost was, what the depreciation is, et cetera, before we could actually probably donate without a cost. Am I close here, Rod? I mean, I've been told probably 1,000 times at this point, right around these deals, but to answer all that, I think we probably do, and we want to research that before we jump in.
So, Mr. Chair, would a motion be in order to approve the donation pending all required surplus provisions are addressed?
Dotted i's and crossed t's. Yes,
That's
I think
correct.
May
so.
I?
Yes.
So I've had our finance department do the research to try to determine how much, when they were purchased. Unless the sheriff's office has records of them, it's been a very long time since they've been purchased. They're not identified by a BRZ number, so just throwing that out there.
Let's just.
My motion's
Yeah.
still in effect. I would like the due
Understand.
diligence.
Is there a second?
I agree.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, it's
Yeah.
fine.
Motion and second to table this and do some research and bring it back to us. Fair enough? Thank you. I'm sorry?
A date to table it too?
This next meeting.
Yeah, next meeting. Yeah, we ought to be done by that. The second was Commissioner here. So Mrs. Campisi, please call the roll. Vote electronically. Yes.
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 Thank you very much. Mr. Sherman, you may want to talk to Counselor about the dotted i's and crossed t's on this last subject, if you will. What do we have next? Great Scott. We're going to talk about technology, Mr. Alma. We're going to receive your report and hopefully accept it.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Excuse me. So I'm just going to kind of give you guys a quick update on everything that we've been up to over the last month. Updates on where we are with Wi-Fi, the network infrastructure project, our mobile device project, and where we are with more than one website. And we'll talk about all that. Network infrastructure and Wi-Fi, we completed the network and server hardware on 11/4. We're working to add speed and redundancy in places that are already live. So we're just adding on to what we've already brought over. Wi-Fi is around 80% complete. We have a few pods remaining. I just got to coordinate with staff and get in there, figure out. There's a few small issues I got to get squared away there, but we're really close as far as that's concerned. And everywhere that we've tested, the coverage and the speed is satisfactory. For the mobile devices, we're finalizing the configuration of the system. The vendor's working on that right now. As soon as they finish, they're going to ship us the devices, and then we're going to start rolling that out. We've been talking with leadership. We're going to kind of do like a soft opening with them. In other words, we're going to keep our paper procedure per se, and we're going to work in the technology, just kind of dip our feet into the water and slowly adapt and transition to this, just so it's not so much for our staff all at one time. The system should be ready for this go live within 4 weeks. That's kind of been delayed because of other things I've been working on with the network install, but we're making progress. For the website, so I kind of mentioned we've got more than one site now that we're working on. We've gone live with 2 SharePoint sites, and we've demonstrated a third for the courts. One that we've gone live with is for internal staff with the detention center. Brandy's talked about the 40 Days of Joy drawings. Every day we shoot that live. They can jump on a meeting. If they can't get on the meeting, we put the recording of the meeting and the drawing on our SharePoint site, so they can digitally go and access and see who won, even if they didn't see it live. So that's one we're doing. Another one we're working on is with Oklahoma City Police. Every time they order a release of one of their people, that will come over and we'll get notified immediately. We complete the release, and then when we complete it, we shift that paperwork over to another folder. They get notified that that person's been released. The third one I kind of talked about, and we demonstrated it for the courts. To start, judges are going to take home an iPad. We're going to give them. Every time there's a PC affidavit, we'll upload it. They'll get the PC, review it, make any notations or changes they need, and then sign and approve, re-upload it. So all that will take away what is currently a paper process. So that just, the faster we can get paper moving throughout the system, the faster we can get people moving throughout the system. So that's where we are with those. With our own website, we've completed a revamp of a lot of the code that runs on our website. We're still working on that, and we're working on a few other things, like Brandy's talked about the CARES program. We're getting a page up for that so people can make requests for that. a place for people to do staff applications, all online. We're working on streamlining that. So where we are, email stuff we've completed. The Wi-Fi, our target is end of the year. Same with the mobile devices. The network infrastructure we're completed. And that website stuff is, I want to call it completed, but there's going to be ongoing sustainment and changes and things that we're going to want to do as time goes on. Any questions?
Any questions or comments for Ms. Alma? If not, I'll entertain a motion in your report. Thank you, Jeff, very much.
Thank you.
Motion.
Motion, is there a second? Thank you very much for the second. Mrs. Campisi, call the roll. Vote electronically. Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Number 11, Mr. Steele, your report from the County Criminal Justice Authority Advisory Board, Citizens Advisory Board.
Sir, thank
Welcome.
you. Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, may I approach and share?
Would you give it to the sheriff first?
I will. I will,
I'm
just to
kidding.
make sure that the
No,
make sure that the beef jerky stays in there.
that's the real bag of fentanyl, is that right?
Why do you want to give it to the sheriff first?
Just so he can scrutinize it.
That's right, just to make sure. So I want to be very quick, and I'm aware of the time, but I sure am thankful to get to present to you today. I'm thankful to be a part of this community. I'm thankful to get to be a representation, an extension of the trust in many regards and what we do as a Citizens Advisory Committee. And I just want to say that Saturday might have been a mountaintop experience for me. The community came together, and the staff, Director Gardner and her incredible staff, decided, determined, and getting input from the men and women who reside at the detention center, if a gift bag was possible, a holiday gift bag, what would they like in it? And I just would like the public to know that in each gift bag, there is a package of Oreo cookies, a package of Lay's potato chips, a package of Cheez-Its, a juice box, a stick of beef jerky, a pair of socks, and a bar of soap. These gift bags, 1,600, were assembled thanks to Tom Ward and the staff at Mock Resources. Also thanks to Judge Cindy Trong, Judge Kat Burton, Francie Ekwerekwu, Perrin Duncan, Bob Ravitz, and many, many, many others who came together to not only provide financial resources, but also manpower to assemble these gift bags. I had the occasion to run into Stephen Buck about a week before the distribution, and I said, hey, this is what's going on. I couldn't be more excited about it. I can't wait to see the reaction, and I'm just so thankful to get to be a part of it. I said, we're going to be taking 1,600 gift bags over to the detention center on Saturday, December 2nd, and Stephen, being who he is, gave me a fist pump and expressed his gratitude, and he said these words, hey, bud, I hope you have to bring back at least 200 of those gift bags. Well, we didn't bring back 200. We brought back 300. And I think it's important that every now and again we stop. And I just want to reiterate, we stop to check in to see where we're at. Saturday represented a 30-year low in the population in Oklahoma County Detention Center. A 30-year low. I've been thinking a lot, an awful lot, about where we're at, where we're headed, and what we're doing. And I think that this milestone is not a moment to say we've accomplished our goal, not by any stretch. I think it's a moment for us to stop and realize what we can accomplish, what we are accomplishing when we work together. And I hope it's motivation for us to continue forward, to do even more. I have this phrase, and I'm working with another group of people, and we're talking about this, but I walked away thinking about where we're at and the leadership in this room and the leadership in this county. And the phrase is this: mistakes do not make us. care creates us, and the goal of liberation will be our legacy. I will just share with you this, that all weekend, this mountaintop experience, my staff and the volunteers, the folk from Mount Olive Baptist Church, other members of the CAB, everybody who showed up has shared stories about what they experienced. And I want to very quickly in my report share with you my story. I entitled it, "The Day the Captain Cried." And I will also tell you, I cry every day. I don't know what happened to me since I turned 50, but I can't, seriously, I can't button my pants unless I cry. I don't know. It's the strangest thing. But this is my account of what happened. Saturday saw the combination of some extraordinary leadership from Cindy Trong, Francie, Perrin, Jamie, Casey, Brandy Gardner, and many, many others when 54 volunteers showed up to distribute holiday gift bags, give fist pumps, and say, quote, "Hang in there. Your community cares about you, and so do we." To the men and women detained in the Oklahoma County Detention Center. In total, approximately 1,300 gift bags were distributed to the 1,272 folks who reside at Oklahoma County Detention Center and the 28 or so individuals who were in the holding/processing area. As the gift bags were received and the messages of support were delivered, the reactions ranged from astonishment to wide eyes to smiles and even verbal cheers and every emotion in between. A chorus of thank you often echoed through the pods as soon as people realized what was happening. When we initially gathered at the detention center at about 7:30 on Saturday morning to receive our instructions for how we were to distribute the gift bags, Director Gardner pulled me aside and disclosed that most of the staff who would be helping us had actually been at the detention center until at least 2 a.m. on Saturday morning, dealing with multiple suicide attempts and some very difficult behaviors. The captain of security validated this information by reiterating that holidays can be an especially tough time for many people. But the volunteers were prepared and anxious, and the spirit of human kindness took over. It took over, and connection occurred. The interactions blessed everyone on both sides of that distribution process. When we completed our tasks and gathered together to say goodbye, the captain of security, a well put together, on top of things, impressive man who has been employed at the detention center for 12 years, became very emotional. He wept as he explained what it meant to witness the generosity of the community and the reaction of the people who reside at the detention center. I just want to say many thanks to the people in this community who shared their time, talent, resources, and efforts in making Saturday successful. Mr. Chairman, I also want to tell you that as part of CAB, we get the opportunity to gather information constantly. We're constantly talking to the community and saying, hey, are you aware that we've hit a 30-year low? Are you aware that the positive changes that are being made? What are you hearing? What are you experiencing? We're talking to family members whose loved ones are detained and asking them about how it's going for them. I need to stop and tell you guys something. The most important thing about these gift bags, with every gift bag, holiday gift bag that was delivered on Saturday, so was a blank holiday card. Everyone in the jail got a blank holiday card that they can send their loved ones a holiday message in. So they had that opportunity as well. We had both English and Spanish versions of our holiday holiday cards for people who wanted those to be able to send a message back to their family to say that they're okay. But we also get to talk to the men and women who reside in the county detention center. As CAB, as an extension of you, per your directive, we believe that those closest to the situation are often closest to the solution. If we can just take time to listen and learn what's going on. And so I'd like to give a very quick report of our last focus group that the CAB members conducted inside the Oklahoma County Detention Center. And Mr. Chairman, I want to say thank you again for letting us bring the voices of the men and women in our community who are residing at the Oklahoma County Detention Center into this space. We missed last month's meeting, and I apologize for that. Both Aaron Engelke, who's been here the entire meeting, and myself were called away to a conference, and were unable to give this report, so I will give it now. Focus groups occurred on October 10th. CAB members went in and visited with both men and women who reside in the detention center. This is a summary of the input that we received from those conversations. I want to listen, we believe in truth telling, but I want to give a disclosure that the men that we got to speak with that day had just been moved to a new pod. And I just want to acknowledge that transition can be tough, even if it's good, it can be tough. And so a few guys were still a little bit unsettled and maybe just a little bit grumpy. I get it. I would be too. But so maybe that recent move had tainted their input just a little bit. But the men stated that the interactions with staff members were improving, but with some individuals, it could still be a little oppressive and at times hostile. They were quick to acknowledge the positive and pleasant and respectful interactions with most staff, but expressed some discouragement over the intense, increased negative encounters with other staff. They identified the negative interactions with staff as, quote, triggering, and they stated that staff appears to be stretched and stressed. They said the phones inside their pods worked inconsistently and not always what they should be. One gentleman spoke in detail about limitations pertaining to mental health care inside the detention center. He said that access to mental health service is deficient and could stand improving. Several of the men expressed concerns about the lengthy response time for physical medical care as well. It was reported by an individual that they may have to wait several hours or even several days, depending on the determination of how severe their medical request is before medical care is administered. The men reported bed bugs continue to be a problem. One person said that one person showed us some visible bug bites on his arms and shoulders. They stated that the neutral chemicals utilized to combat the bed bugs, in their estimation, does not kill the bugs, but rather just makes them mad. They stated the quality of the food is good and the portions are adequate. The lunch on October 10th consisted of rice and beans, cornbread, vegetables, and spice cake. The men indicated the need for an improved orientation process for individuals coming into the detention center. They disclosed that people coming in have many questions about how to access commissary, about how and when to communicate with their judge or legal representation about their case. And they also identified the technology connected with the kiosk as being confusing and frustrating to individuals who don't have a technology background. They revealed access to spiritual services is often limited, and they select a peer and many times to offer spiritual support. They indicated more time out of their cell would be very helpful and greatly appreciated. The men said that they would like to have input into who they share a cell with. They believe this input in this decision would actually decrease conflict, reduce violence, and improve mental health and emotional well-being. The men stated that the new mattresses at the detention center were a huge blessing and a definite improvement, and asked us to say thank you to the trust and the administration. The women communicated that the bed bugs continued to be problematic, but the situation appears to be getting better. The women expressed frustration over limited recreational opportunities and time out of their cells as well. On average, they said that they are getting out of their cell 2 days a week, approximately 4 hours a day. One woman talked about the culture inside OCDC as treating everyone as if they are already guilty. She stated the environment compels people to plead guilty to things that they did not do just to obtain relief in hopes of getting out sooner. Several women stated limited access to basic hygiene products is an issue, and they said that basic hair care and skin care that is appropriate for various races and ethnicities would be very, very, very helpful. The women said that the quality of food and the food portions are adequate, but would welcome fresh fruit and more variety and seasoning in their daily servings. The communication, they communicated interaction with the staff are positive, and that most of the staff put forth extra efforts to help and assist with their needs. They did note that it seems like staff turnover is high. The women said programs are consistently available to those living on their pod. Calm Waters grief support groups and women in transitions were among the two that they said were most popular. They feel access to spiritual services and support are adequate and available. One person shared that she was granted an opportunity to actually witness her nephew's funeral via Zoom. She said it meant the world to her. The women also discussed a need for a better orientation process for individuals entering the detention center. They indicated that it can be confusing and traumatic when a person first arrives at the detention center. One person said that she had been at OCDC for 7 days and had not been able to connect with anyone in her family because she did not have access to her phone and she had not memorized the phone numbers. She said she is concerned about the safety and well-being of her children, and she felt like that she was in sort of a twilight zone. The women stated a process explaining how to access service, communicate expectations, and explain how to communicate with the courts when a person first arrives would be extremely valuable. All of the women identified the positive interactions with staff as a bright spot and a definite improvement and the best thing happening inside the Oklahoma County Detention Center. Mr. Chairman, I would just tell you that in addition to this, we as a CAB have also had the opportunity to have additional communication with Director Gardner in small groups. And so we're learning and we're taking the ideas and the themes of what it takes to create a better orientation process, for example, what it takes to make sure that more programming is available, what it takes to make sure that people have a proper spiritual support and all those things. We're working collaboratively with the administration on these recommendations. Director Gardner is the first to hear about these things, and she's like, let's be honest about where we're at. Let's meet it head on, and that's the only way that we're going to improve. So I also appreciate that transparency. And we are very optimistic about the changes that are forthcoming. We're celebrating where we're at, and we believe that even more progress is going to be made in 2024. I thank you for the opportunity to share this report.
Thank you, Mr. Steele. Any questions?
Yes, thank you. Chris, thank you for the report that you shared. You shared a lot of information. I know time is far spent. Probably everybody's ready to go home, but something that really stood out above everything else was a person not being able to remember a phone number, which we live in a day and time where we just don't memorize phone numbers anymore. So what type of resolution? That's major. Because I know that if someone wants to be in anywhere we go, we have people that want to be smart Alex and slick and want to say something like, it's not my responsibility to try to find the phone number. What do we do with that? Because that's of the utmost importance.
I will tell you that what we're processing through within CAB and with Director Gardner, and we're hoping to bring all this back to you as well, is a process to try to capture that information at the time of processing. To say, hey, we've got you know, there may be an opportunity to say, we've got your phone. Do we need to record some phone numbers out of this device before you go back, just so that when you have the opportunity, because listen, everybody is telling us that they have an opportunity to contact their loved ones. But it's making sure, and I'm the same way. I have Kelly Steele's phone number memorized, and that's about it right now. I've got everybody else in my phone, and I just punch up the first two letters of their name and so on and so forth. So we're thinking through some processes, just a quick opportunity to say, hey, you know, do you need whose phone number, like maybe 2 or 3 phone numbers do we need to capture out of this phone during the time of processing in? And we're hoping to make that part of a standard orientation process that would help people know how to utilize the services and know when they're going to be able to make phone calls and how that whole process works. In that process, we're hoping to take just a few extra minutes and say, what kind of information do we need to help you collect so that you can check in with who you need to check in with.
I would say, and maybe you can get Mrs. Gardner's input on this, but I could see one problem with that. You know how much of a speaker I feel about these kind of issues and staying connected with family and those issues and how important that is. And I would like to thank you for the gift bag you gave out. I know we live in a very materialistic society where it may not sound like much. But sometimes I just wake up on the wrong side of the bed, and somebody being nice to me sometime that day just makes my day a better place. And just doing something to show that they're not forgotten to care about is very important. Mr. Gardner, I think a lot of times when people are brought in, whether it's by the sheriff or any other law enforcement agency, cell phones are going to be considered evidence, and they may not want the person being able to have access to the evidence again before going into the jail. Once it's taken, that's going to go into evidence. I know it happens in many cases where the phone's involved in a case.
There is some truth to that. The other side of this is it's behavioral. If they come in and they are too intoxicated to even, you know, stand up straight, or, you know, or if they're combative, they don't have that opportunity to review their phone. We also have to make sure that they're not sending messages to somebody that could jeopardize the safety and the security of the facility as well. So there's all these different things that we have to consider during that. But I can say that they are given an opportunity at the intake window, but it is all situational and it's behavioral based. And then to your point, sometimes the phones are considered evidence. So.
Mr. Chairman, just to speak still, I want to just say thank you. This is a big deal. Coming from a bleeding heart social worker, it makes a big difference. And so I just want to thank you for everything you're doing with CAB and with team, including taking my students from Rose and showing them how to help people who have lost their way. So I just want to thank you and what you've done just over the years for criminal justice reform. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Speaker Steele. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your report.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We need to vote to receive his report. Mrs. We have a motion, yes, and a second somewhere. Thank you. Motion and second. Mrs. Campisi, call the roll. Please vote electronically. Yes.
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 We're at item number 12, which is disclosure that our next meeting is going to be on Monday, January 8th. We're moving to the new schedule, which is the second Monday of the month. That will give Mr. Sherman and his staff time to close out the books in a proper, current way. And other than that, any other comments for the good of the order or announcements? Anyone wants? Mr. Johnson.
Just thank the for having honored me with the meeting on my birthday. So I do appreciate that. So
that would be January 8th or today.
No, January.
I don't want to be confused. So okay.
How many candles do we need to pick up?
Okay. Time for adjournment. Do I have a motion and a second? Thank you very much. Mrs. Campisi, call the roll. Mr. Johnson did. Yes.
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 Thank you all. We are adjourned.